not to give you ideas, but I know some college students that actually use that, say, oh, I have ADHD, I need Adderall. And, docs give it to them.
Well, you actually have to go in.
You have to be documented.
Yeah, that depends on the state. So, of interest to me, of course, dealing in the field that I am, how many kids treated with ADHD drugs become teenage and adult stimulant addicts? Well, they voice that belief even though the medical community says, no, there's no relationship. So in whose interest is it to medicate children using neurotoxic pharmaceuticals? Well, it's not parents. Parents do not have a vested interest in poisoning their children. They do not. Big Pharma does. So who has a vested, in other words, moneyed interest in keeping you healthy? I mean, maybe Kaiser, but probably not. They make more money, so.
You're sick.
Your government, health industry, others who need you to continue to be a consumer. Buy more stuff, or the terrorists win. So before addictions existed, so if certain features of certain forms of civilization require that addictions exist so that they survive, then other features of other forms of civilization were designed to preserve the people's non-addictive, healthy relationship with themselves, with their families, the community, the natural world. And a certain imbalance was observed, revealed, taught, and practiced within every feature of those civilizations.
Now, what does the natural world consist of?
Trees, bushes.
The natural world consists of partially everything else that is alive and things that you might not consider to be alive. Well, the natural world, everything that humans didn't create, for starters, and then there's other things. So, for example, I traveled through Africa, right? And some humans have been living in the places that they've been living for like 100,000 years. And then they've been burying their dead. So, one of my Awe friends, tribal group, they were basically we built the cities that are in the Bible in Iraq. Iraq's our original homeland, what's called Iraq today. We were chased out of there, and we made it here to, in this particular case, Ghana, 6,000 years later. Right? So he said, everywhere that you see there's a termite mine, humans are buried there. Because termites are part of the natural, we bury, our dead, right? Wrapped in a shroud or something like that if we're Muslim or whatever. And the termites go and they break down the bodies. That's part of the natural part of the soil, that process. And the termite mounds are an indicator of that, in addition to, you see termite mounds next to graveyards. So the older part of the graveyard, before we start burying people in coffins and concrete, you see that throughout the jungle. And termites build their mounds everywhere else. So the natural world, humans existed in a balance with the natural world. And they can alter that balance, too. The Sahara was a rainforest once, with lakes.
Arizona is almost thousands of acres of alfalfa down around me.
Yes, agriculture changes that too. So pieces of that collective wisdom exist today, and there are people like, for example, Dr. Andrew Weil that talks about natural mind. So I make reference to what natural mind is. So natural mind is the state of being in which the inherent, that is, your internal, unlimited potential in each human being can develop, grow, be sustained, and be expanded by conscious choice. So natural mind is not a state of addiction. Addictions are not normal, but they are normal in certain forms of civilization. Western civilization is one of them. So natural mind is inherent in each human being, and it's the original non-addictive state that every being was born into. And one could make the argument, unless you were born addicted, even so it was your mom that was addicted, not you.
Why do babies have withdrawal symptoms if they're not born addicted?
Withdrawal symptoms from what?
Heroin, crack.
Because they got it from mom.
I know they got it from mom, but wouldn't that consider them to not be in that state because they're having withdrawal symptoms, so it wouldn't they?
They're having withdrawal symptoms because, okay, well, we'll get into the short answer for that is consider the situation. Fetus does not have a liver,
Yeah.
right? So mom's liver is functioning for both of them. So whatever mom does, baby does at least twice of with no liver till it gets filtered out by mom's liver. The worst stuff goes through the placenta as if it isn't there. Like meth, like coke, like alcohol.
Why would your body feed that to you really though?
Ah,
It's supposed
yeah.
to protect it?
Ah, yeah.
I don't know. Because I'm pregnant, I guess I'm more curious about that.
It's the fetus's natural inclination to leach from your body. You're the host.
Yeah.
It takes
But wouldn't it
calcium
take,
from
like-
your bones. It takes all your nutrients first. That's why you take multivitamins.
Unless
That'd be why it takes, wouldn't it take your nutrients before it?
back.
No, your
Okay.
nutrients.
Also, that's in a non-stressed state. If you're in a stressed state, part of the response to the fetus is we stop feeding the fetus because we need to get the hell out of here, away from the lion. So baby actually starts getting starved if you start having low birth weight, easily startled, compromised nervous system babies from being in constant stress too. So yes, baby is taking your nutrients, but if you're stressed, you starve baby. Okay? And if your response to stress is to use substances, not only are you now starving baby, but you are poisoning baby too.
Now you're talking about the neurons, though, right? Because I mean, shock can be the same thing from stress, stress-related shock.
Yes.
There's THC in the baby system, just like in the mother's were.
Yes. And again, it depends on the individual, lots of factors within that. Generally speaking, in terms of, well, not necessarily sex. Sex is a natural process.
I'm talking about the sex of the gender.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, the hormonal balance gets affected. So, in any case, natural mind. All right? Natural mind, the optimal non-addicted state. So, societies existed which promoted the practices of natural mind, and societies can be constructed which inhibit the development of natural mind. So, ours is one. So, before 1492, on Turtle Island, that's here, Native American drug technology, about 800 different herbs, including alcohol, including marijuana, et cetera, were part of that pharmacopoeia, and they knew 4,000 years ago that alcohol harmed the fetus before Western society even invented the concept of fetal alcohol syndrome. Yeah, alcohol has been part of human culture as long as there's been agriculture.
Yeah.
So hard liquor was invented in Egypt about close to 10,000 years ago.
Well, did they grab beer too, didn't they?
Yeah, but basically to make hard alcohol, we'll get into this later, but hard alcohol you need a still, so that means metallurgy.
Yeah.
Can't build a pyramid without metal. Okay? Can't build still using vegetable gourds. You have to have copper, steel, iron. Okay, so Native Americans didn't have, they had metallurgy, but they didn't have distilleries. So, even so,
Well, how old is the Bible? Because they were drinking wine then, so.
the Bible, which version of the Bible?
The old.
The oldest version of the Bible?
The Old Testament.
In what language?
In Hebrew.
That's not the oldest version of the Bible.
Oh.
So 450 AD. King James is 1600 AD. So this older version. So,
The Quran, those.
like I said, distilling technology came from Egypt before the Abrahamic religions existed. Okay? So it was a state secret then. So in a world with pain and suffering, practical skill, a principal skill with natural mind is self-soothing. So you start relying on inner resources to bring a sense of calm, order, and fulfillment, and a sense of direction in times of adversity. And you come to rely on inner resources first. One of those inner resources is a sense of connection and relationship to the rest of your world.
They gave the slaves beer.
Technically, well, without getting into this, because that's a diversion.
Sorry. When I read it, when you read
The
it.
archaeological evidence does not support slavery as constructing the pyramids. So, I know what the Bible says, but the archaeological evidence doesn't suggest that. This is a quote from Einstein. So, there is natural mind in Western civilization. This is Einstein's answer, actually, to a rabbi asking him a question about how his daughter should handle anti-Semitism and racism. And this is Einstein's answer. A human being is part of the whole, called by us the universe, limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a prison, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons close to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from our prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all humanity and the whole of nature in its beauty. He also goes on to say after this quote, this isn't an easy task, and no one can do this completely, but the effort by itself is likely to be rewarded. So one of the things he's talking about from a framework of, for example, quantum physics is basically quantum physics is about studying the energy relationships between things and people. The natural world, which includes not just what you see, but also what you don't see. Okay? Your cell phones are a quantum device, relaying an invisible signal that goes through walls. That's good. Good timing. Okay? But connecting you invisibly to other people. So, natural mind connects you to the balanced forces of life that you're part of. Addictive mind and addiction disconnects you from the forces of life so that you're a part of, so that you begin to live out of balance. So if you live out of balance long enough, it seems normal. There's an African American saying it was so bad it got good to him. So, and also an African American framework, addiction is slavery. And you know how we feel about slavery. So, the Confederacy was a nation based on slavery, forcing Africans to be subservient, illiterate, monolingual, monocultural, and addicted. It was not based on freedom for everyone. So the natural state of Africans in Africa, and I got to observe this firsthand, is they're multiliterate, multilingual, multicultural, and, well, one of the interesting things when you notice about the economy is one of the reasons that America is the largest drug consumer in the world is because it takes money. As Robin Williams observed, cocaine is God's way of telling you you're making too much money. Okay? As an example, you know, which is not to say there isn't addiction in Africa. It's mostly alcoholism, some heroin use, depending. But it's heroin addiction happens in places where they're making heroin for export here. Just like crack cocaine smoking in Bolivia is a side effect of producing cocaine for here. So why did I go there? America is not based on the principle of natural mind. Major institutions in America require you be addicted in some fashion in order for them to survive. So an addiction requires that you be consciously unaware of it to continue. It presents being out of balance, inequality, inequity, injustice as normal, and a weakness in the individual. Not that the system produced, well, there's nothing wrong with the system. It's normal. Problem is you. And if you complain, oh, it's your problem. Loser.
Hey, man.
Well, so an African American view of health includes justice and economic and moral and legal equity. Because the form of democracy that existed here before 1492 held that it was not only, it was dishonorable to have poor people. How many of you parents? Which of your children would you not feed? Right. Okay, here in Turtle Island, we didn't believe in having poor people. If somebody didn't have a good harvest or didn't have a good hunting season, you feed them if you have more than enough to live, because they're your family, all my relations, which is not the same as we the people. We the people does not mean every human being present does it, did it. Not the same as all my relations. The people that generated the concept of all my relations had women leading them. The women decided whether we go to war or not, because it's their sons or daughters that are dying. And we not going to war just because you can't get along with that chief. In fact, we will unmake you as chief if you cannot resolve your differences in 3 times of open council. I'm talking about Iroquois Six Nations that started their democracy in 1142 AD. Okay? So there was civilization and democracy here before Columbus. There are pyramids here before Columbus. No pyramids in Europe. So there was civilization here, all right? And not addiction. No racism. No sexism.